Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about solving the quadratic equation by taking the square root, with and without imaginary numbers. Alright, so you will need your notes, calculator, and a pen and or pencil, please. Alright, first thing, our learning target, here it is. I can solve a quadratic by taking the square root. So if you would please get this in your notes, that'd be fabulous. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, also today for our notes, all you have to get down are the 6 examples. Everything before that you can just listen to, alright? So here we go. Alright, there are different types of equations, which is really important for us to think about. We have like 3x plus 4 equals 16 versus 3x squared plus 4 equals 16. Now they're similar, but the x squared is going to change the way we perform our final step of our equation. And the big thing about this, you guys, if we have just an x, I'm going to have one solution. If I have an x squared, I'm going to have two solutions. So that's something that we have to be thinking about. X squared always means I'm going to have two solutions. If I just have an x, I'm going to have one solution. Also, something that we just need to think about, when we factor something, we're usually going to have like an x squared and an x in our problem. Those are ones that we're going to have factored. When we want to solve by taking the square root, that's when we're going to see like an x squared minus 6 equals 0. We're just going to be dealing with that part, okay? Alright then, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Big thing that we're going to be talking about when we're solving square roots is Pythagorean Theorem, which we should all know. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. And if I would set this one up that way, I'd have 6 squared plus x squared equals 10 squared. If I wanted to solve this, I'd have 36 plus x squared equals 100. Subtract 36 from both sides. And x squared equals 49. And then we would take the square root of both sides. Excuse me, not 49, 64. Take the square root of both sides, and x is going to equal 8. Now, today when we take ours, we're going to have a plus or minus in front of it, which is very important. Okay? So important for us to remember, think about. All right. Now, we're going on. We have 6 examples. All 6 of them need to get into your notes, please. All right, here we go. Here's number 1. So get this one in your notes. 3x squared plus 5 equals 41. To solve this, ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to subtract 5 on both sides. 3x squared equals 36. Divide both sides by 3. X squared equals 12. Now we're going to take the square root of this. Now we have to break down 12. So my x is going to equal, since I'm taking the square root, I have to put plus or minus, and I break it into 2 pieces. The largest perfect square is first. The largest perfect square that can go into 12 is 4. So I have here 4. If I take 12 divided by 4, I'm going to get 3. Break this down even further. X equals plus or minus the square root of 4 is 2. And square root of 3 is going to stay. That is my final answer. Okay, I have to simplify my square root, and I have to have that plus or minus. So there's our first example that please make sure you get into your notes. Example number 2. Here we go. So if x squared plus 18 equals negative 72, subtract 18x on both sides. X squared equals negative 90. Now to get rid of my square, I'm going to take the square root on both sides. X equals plus or minus. Now I'm going to break this one into 3 parts, because my first one I'm going to take out is that negative 1. Second thing, my largest perfect square that can go into 90 is 9. And if I take 90 divided by 9, I get 10. That's how I'm going to break this apart. Now I just need to simplify it. So x equals, make sure you put that plus or minus. Square root of negative 1 is I. Square root of 9 is 3. And the square root of 10 can't be simplified, so I'm going to leave that right there. So this is my final answer. Okay, x equals plus or minus, because I have two answers, so it can be a positive 3i square roots of 10, or it can be a negative 3i square roots of 10. All right, moving on to example number 3. Here we go. Solve this one. We're going to start by adding 15 on both sides. 2x squared equals 80. Divide both sides by 2. X squared equals 40. Break this down, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides. X equals plus or minus. Breaking this down, my largest perfect square that goes into 40 is 4, so I have 4 and 10. X equals plus or minus. Square root of 4 would be 2. Square root of 10 is going to say 10. Those are my two answers. X plus 2 square roots of 10 and x minus 2 square roots of 10. Alright, 3 left, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Example number 4. Please make sure you get it in your notes. First thing here we're going to do is we're going to add 5 to both sides. 4x squared equals 14. Then we're going to divide both sides by 4. So x squared equals 14 over 4, because we can't simplify that. We're going to leave it just like this for right now. Because when I take the square root of this, I can break my 14 and my 4 apart. So I have x equals plus or minus square root of 14 over the square root of 4. And I can just break this down. 14 doesn't have a perfect square, so my answer is going to be x equals plus or minus square root of 14 on top, but on the bottom, my square root of 4 is just 2. And this is how we would leave that answer, ladies and gentlemen. So x equals plus 14, the square root of 14 over 2, or x equals minus the square root of 14 over 2. All right, last two examples. Here they come. Example number 5. I have the quotient x plus 9 squared equals negative 4. To solve this, when it's in parentheses, first thing I have to do is take the square root of both sides. So on this side, those are going to cancel. I'm going to get x plus 9 equals plus or minus. Now I have to break down this square root. So negative 1 and 4. So x plus 9 equals plus or minus, that's going to be I, that's going to be 2. So I have 2i. Now to solve this one, to get x by itself, I am going to subtract 9 from both sides. So I'm going to get x equals negative 9 plus or minus 2i. That's how we write that. We write that negative 9 first, then plus or minus. Because this is two answers, it could be written like this, negative 9 plus 2i, or my other answer is negative 9 minus 2i. So those are my two answers. We can simplify it by writing it like this, but that's what it means, you guys. I have two answers there. All right? All right, with that, we are moving on to our last example. Get excited. Here we go. Example number 6. Now, I have that same idea here. This is in parentheses, so I have to get this whole thing by itself first. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. I'm going to get 3x minus 2 squared equals 40. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 3. These are going to cancel, and I get x minus 2 squared equals 40 over 3. Now I have to solve this by taking the square root. Those cancel, and I get x minus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 40 over the square root of 3. Now, we know we can't have a square root on the bottom, so we're going to get rid of that by multiplying the bottom and the top by the square root of 3. When I do that, I get x minus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 120 over the square root of 9. Now I have x minus 2 equals plus or minus. Now I'm going to simplify both of these separately. So on the top, the square root of 120, the largest perfect square that can go into 120, is 4. And if I take 120 divided by 4, it gives me 30. The square root of 9 is a perfect square, which is just 3, so I'm going to write that down. Now I'm going to simplify that top, so I'm going to rewrite it. And I'm going to get x minus 2 equals plus or minus square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 30 I can't break down, and it's over 3. So now my square root is all simplified. Now I can get rid of this minus 2. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So I get x equals 2 plus or minus 2 square roots of 30 all over 3. This whole thing is my 2 answers. Right? And we're going to leave it just like that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for you wonderful people today. So I hope you go out and have a wonderful day, and I will be seeing you soon. Bye.